Hello and welcome. In today's screencast, I'd like to run through a proof of concept that I've been working on that will illustrate one of the uses of Passthru X++. If you've read my blog post article, specifically the one relating to the limitations of the Office connector, you'll see that I've got some code posted within the article about halfway through. What I'm going to be doing in this screencast is just showing you how you can go about implementing this code and give you a demonstration of one of the example uses. Okay, let's switch over to the AOT. The first thing that you need is a very simple class that will execute the dynamic X++ script that's passed to it. This class here contains a single method, and the code for this method has been posted in from my blog post article. I'm not going to walk you through the mechanics of the code, but I just want to draw your attention to this specific function, the runBuff function. The runBuff function will take the X++ that's passed in as a parameter, attempt to compile it, execute it, and return any results in the result variable here, and this will then be returned as part of this wrapper function. Now let's switch over to Visual Studio. Within our Visual Studio solution, I've created a class library, and within this class library I've dragged in, or I've included, our dynamic X++ compilation and execution class. I've consumed this class and I've created a wrapper for it in C#, and the C# wrapper performs a default login to Dynamics, and it invokes the method. You may think to yourself that this is slightly redundant, but this is a necessary route to go down because we ultimately want to use this class within an Excel application, and an Excel application won't be able to make direct proxy calls to the AOT. I'm going to switch over to the Excel application now, and you can see that we've got the default worksheet for our Excel application open. I've created a cell here and I've given it a named range. As I click into this cell, you'll see that the name of this particular range is dynamic script. I've added a button to this worksheet, and I'm just going to get you to look at the code behind this button, and very simplistically all it does is it gets a reference to the dynamic script named range, i.e. the cell that you were just looking at, and it attempts to invoke the wrapper class that we were just looking at with the data that's held in that cell. As soon as that happens, the dynamic X++ will be ferried via the class library to the AOS and into the class that we were looking at slightly earlier, this class here. The X++ will be compiled, executed, or an attempt at execution will be made, and the results will be returned via this function back via the proxy class and into the secondary sheet, the data sheet. Okay, so that's a very quick and simplistic explanation of how the code is, how the solution all hangs together. Let's go ahead and do a demonstration. Okay, we just need to rebuild and execute the solution, so I'm just going to take the rebuild option here. Now we're not going to be taking the deploy option because the class library doesn't actually need to be resident on the AOT, because we're not going to be using it in Dynamics. We're only going to be using in Windows-based, or in this particular case, Office-based applications. Okay, should be able to just hit F5 to run it, and it will fire up Excel. Okay, and I think it's going to give me a warning about a licensing issue, so I'm just going to ignore that for now. Now I've got some X++ in a text file here. I'm just going to copy that and paste that directly into our cell. And you can see that the data is kind of semi-visible there. If I just expand that cell out, then you should be able to see the function in its entirety. all the function is going to do is execute a quick query that joins the cust table to the proj table, and it's going to return some results. Nothing too glamorous. Let's go ahead and run it. And it's executed. So we have a sample of information from the cust table joined to the proj table, specifically the account, the cust group. These are all basic pieces of information that you can ordinarily retrieve directly from the tables or from queries. Now this particular column, if I examine my script, is actually coming from a method call on the proj table. Now, you wouldn't ordinarily be able to retrieve this type of information in a query, and you'd have to implement and deploy a class to be able to get hold of it. But the power of using dynamic Passthru X++ means that you could retrieve information like this without having to add any additional objects to the AOT. I'm just going to change this to a different method. Let's change it to total cost. Well, actually, I should be able to just change it directly in the worksheet cell. Okay, so now if I attempt to re-execute that script, you can see that the value has actually changed. I should have changed the column heading as well. Okay, hey presto, the column heading and the data has been changed. As you can see, it's reasonably quick. The first invocation always takes a little bit longer simply because the DLLs are being loaded into memory. After that, subsequent invocations are reasonably fast, in fact comparable to the speeds that you would normally achieve using the Dynamics connector. With this type of solution, you are programming by the seat of your pants. So if I put in a deliberate X++ compilation error into our script, let's change that type to strx, and we'll attempt to recompile. We immediately get a compilation failure back from the AOT. The AOT won't give us the level of error handling that you would normally get within that particular environment. So you are truly programming by the seat of your pants, and it's not actually recommended to be programming in this type of environment at all. The scripts that you use must be well formed. So let's put that back the way it was, and we'll re-execute it just to make sure everything's behaving again. Okay, and we got our data back. Ordinarily, you would never want to give this type of power to an end user. However, there's nothing stopping you from hiding this or creating a facade that creates the dynamic script in the background. So long as the script is well formed, everything should operate as you would expect. Okay, that concludes the demonstration for today. Thank you for watching.